Hey guys, it's Mr. Walker here, and we've been doing a lot of work with decimals, right? We've been rounding them, we've been discovering the place value with them, we've been adding them and subtracting them, we've even been multiplying them. Well, today we're actually going to move into another concept and build on our decimal knowledge by learning how we can divide decimals, right? And now you might hear that word division and be like, oh man, division, it's scary, I don't like it, it's a lot of work, but trust me, we're going to break this down step by step, take a look at the behind the scenes kind of stuff on why dividing decimals works a certain way and what strategies we can use to do that efficiently. And I promise you by the end we'll be feeling pretty confident about how to divide decimals. So let's just jump right in with a few examples, see what's going on here, map it out, and then you guys are going to get a chance to try it on your own. Okay, so I'm going to start here with a problem, okay, with an example, and we have 9/10, okay, and we're dividing that 9/10 by 3. So we want to figure out what 9/10 divided by 3 is. Now right away you might look at this and be like, I don't even know where to start. I have a 0 out here. I can't divide 0 by 3. How many times it's 3 go into 9? But where do I put my decimal point? And don't stress about all that yet. First of all, we're just going to break this down using our place value chart and take a look at what these numbers are actually representing and what we're going to be doing with them. So make sure you have your place value chart and something to write on, something to write with, and we'll get started, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do when I have my 9/10 divided by 3 is I'm going to actually represent my 9/10 up here on my place value chart. So I'm going to drag some of these shapes over. So I need 9 of them here in my tenths place. Okay, these are like my place value discs, right? Alright, so what I would want to do now is I want to divide those 9/10 into equal groups of 3, right? Because I'm dividing it by 3. So a couple ways I could do this. I'm just going to actually move these guys around. So let's say that I got a group here, and a group there, right? So there's my 3 groups. So I'm going to put this guy here, this guy there, and that guy there. Group here, a group there, and a group there. So now I've made 3 groups, and it just so happens that in my 3 groups I have 3 place value discs. I divided them out evenly, right? So I have 1 group here, 2 groups here, 3 groups here. And in those 3 groups, I happen to have 3 place value discs. So that means that those 9/10, if I were to take them and divide them into groups of 3, each group would have 3/10, okay? So, not too shabby. I was able to actually represent this on the place value chart using my place value discs. You could have drawn this in or did whatever you need to, but we can see that we can actually group and move around tenths just like we could do whole numbers, okay? Not too terrible. And if we wanted to, we can actually even like kind of reverse this and think about this as multiplication in a sense. If I were to say 3 groups of 3/10 is equal to 9/10. Okay, so I'm just kind of reversing it, just kind of expressing it in another way. But if I had 3 groups of those 3/10, I would have 9/10 overall. So let's take a look at another example and see if this holds true with the different numbers. Alright, so this time I have 24 hundredths and I'm dividing that by 4. Okay, 24 hundredths divided by 4. So I know I'm going to have to create 4 equal groups. But this time I have a 2-digit number instead of a 1-digit number. So I wonder what's going to change when we do that. So let me start by representing this on the place value chart. Okay, so I'm going to start with, I got 2/10, right? So there's my 2/10, and then I'm going to have 4 hundredths, right? And I'm dividing those into 4 equal groups. Now right away in this example, I have kind of a conundrum, I guess you could say, in the fact that if I were going to make 4 groups, if I were going to make 4 groups, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, I can't drag these 2/10 in there equally, right? One group is, or actually 2 groups are going to have more tenths than the other one, so that's not going to quite work. So what I need to do instead is I need to unbundle these tenths, and I need to bring them over to my hundredths, okay? Kind of make them the same so I have like an even playing field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these tenths, I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to break it apart into hundredths. Well, I know that there's 10 hundredths in 1/10, so basically I'm going to add in 10 more hundredths. All right, easy enough. So I did that with 1. I'm going to do the same thing with this guy here. All right, so now I have 24 hundredths, right? I have 10, 20, 24 hundredths. And I can now divide that into 4 equal groups. So if I were to start dividing these into 4 equal groups, well, I would do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Starting to get the idea. Alright, so I took my 24 hundredths and I divided it up into 4 equal groups, and that gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means that each group has 6 hundredths in it. So that means that each group has 6 hundredths in it. Remember, I took from the 6th place, or the 100th place here. So 24 hundredths divided by 4 would give me 6 hundredths, okay? Easy enough. So this is starting to make sense. We're starting to see how we can unbundle some numbers to make them a little bit easier to work with, so we have enough to divide by, right? And then really we can divide in the same way we divide any other number. Now I'm using models here, and I'm dragging things down and really illustrating how we're dividing that number up. But eventually in other lessons we're going to start to move away from that a little more and use our head. But for right now, this is perfect, okay? Let's take a look at one more example where we're actually going to use a whole number and divide a whole number by another number, okay? Alright guys, so here's the last example we're going to do together, and then I'm going to let you guys try it on your own for a little bit, okay? So here we have 1 5/10 divided by 5. Now you'll see that this one has a whole number in it, but that's totally okay. We could still make this work. So we have 1 5/10 divided by 5. But just like in our last example, right off the bat here, I'm seeing that I'm going to have to probably do some unbundling, or at least think of this decimal in terms of its unit value, and a different way of thinking about it that's going to make it easier for me to divide 5 by that number, okay? Because I can't divide 1 by 5. Like that's not going to work technically. So we're going to have to think of it in a different way, all right? And just like we did in the last one, we thought about our 24 hundredths. We thought about it differently. We moved the tenths over when we thought about place value, and we thought of it as 24 hundredths, and then when we divided those hundredths up. So we're going to do something similar in this example, and we're going to think of this one whole in terms of tenths, okay? So I know that 10 tenths equals 1 whole, so I'm going to drag out 10 tenths to start. Alright, so there's my 10 tenths, which would give me my 1 whole. Now I'm going to put 5 more tenths in there, so let's do 5 more. Perfect, so there's my 5 tenths, and now I'm going to divide that into groups of 5, or into 5 equal groups, right? Because that's what I'm dividing by. So I'm dividing by 5. So we go ahead and draw 5 groups down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. And I'm going to start dragging my tenths into those groups. I just want to make sure that it's even, that they all have the same amount of tenths in them. These guys kind of look like creepy zombies down here with like 2 eyes going on, right? Glad I'm putting a third one in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Perfect. Okay. So it looks like to me, if I divide that 15 tenths up into groups of 5, I would get 3 in each group. 3 in each group, okay? And what I had to do first was take that 1 5/10, turn it into tenths, which gave me 15 tenths, and then I divided that into 5 equal groups, which gave me 3 in each group. So 5, and again these were 3 tenths, so 5 groups of 3 tenths is going to be equal to 1 5/10, okay? If we were to put these back together, or multiply it, or however you want to look at it, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which would be my 1 whole, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which would be my 5 tenths. So hopefully that's starting to make sense a little bit. Hopefully we can start to visually see this coming together on how we can divide decimals. We're going to do a little more work with this in a couple other lessons, but hopefully this gives you enough to get started and get practicing on what you need to do today. So as always, please let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.